it's Lizzie. So this video is a beginner's guide to going to Mass. If you're exploring Catholicism or thinking about converting, you've never been to Mass before, here's what to expect. Whenever I bring one of my friends to Mass who's either Protestant or atheist, I always give them a pep talk ahead of time, and I just explain a few things that are going on so that they're not uncomfortable. So just imagine that you're one of my friends coming to Mass with me for the first time. Here's what I would say. So the first thing to know is that Catholics at Mass are not judging you. Something that is very jolting to non-Catholics when going to Mass is that there's a lot of participation all throughout Mass. So everyone will say prayers together at random times. It will feel random to you. Everyone will kneel together, do the sign of the cross together. Just all throughout Mass, everyone's doing things in unison. And it can feel like if you're not doing it, everyone's watching you, seeing that you're not doing it, judging you. The thing you need to know is Catholics are not actually judging you if you're not participating in everything, because there are so many Catholic converts. Everyone will assume that you're in RCIA and converting into Catholicism or thinking about converting. If you're never doing the sign of the cross, not kneeling, not saying the prayers out loud, people are just gonna assume that you're new, and that's exciting. That's a positive thing. Like, everyone will be so happy to see you not knowing what's going on, because they're assuming that you might be on a path to converting. If you are Protestant though, you might recognize a lot of the prayers that everyone is saying together, and a lot of things that the priest is saying are verbatim scripture. So there's Bible verses all throughout Mass. If you really listen, you'll probably recognize tons of Bible verses all throughout Mass. You just won't know when to say them or when the priest is gonna say them. The second thing is that you should not do anything you are uncomfortable with. So, for example, when Catholics walk into Mass, they dip their fingers in the holy water and cross themselves, and the holy water is to remind us of our baptism, and crossing ourselves is remembering how loved we are by the Trinity, by God. If you're new, probably holy water seems sketchy. I remember the sign of the cross. I was very scared of it and I judged it a lot before I converted, so I didn't cross myself for probably like 3 or 5 months or something of attending Divine Liturgy and Mass. Then when we walk in, before we sit down at the pew, we genuflect to Jesus in the Eucharist at the front of the church. If there's a red candle going, that means that the Eucharist is consecrated. We believe God is physically there, and so we're bowing to God before going into our pew. But if you're new to Mass, you likely do not believe in the real presence of the Eucharist, so it makes sense that you wouldn't feel comfortable bowing down to what you think is bread and wine. I did not genuflect. I think I didn't even kneel down in the pews for a while, so don't do anything you're not comfortable with. I would say that about half of my friends do not kneel at all during the Liturgy of the Eucharist. What you do need to do though is, if you're not kneeling, kind of sit at the front of your seat, because the people behind you are kneeling and they'll like run into your back. So just kind of sit at the front of your seat if you're not gonna be kneeling during Mass. Next thing to say. So, as a Protestant convert into Catholicism, I thought that Catholics worship statues, worshipped Mary, worshipped the Pope, worshipped icons, worshipped stained glass. I just thought they worshipped so many things. And so I remember my first time walking into a Catholic church, it confirmed all of these stereotypes, because I literally saw statues of saints. And so I'm like, they're worshiping the statue. But Catholics only worship God. We do not worship any of the artwork. If you think Catholics worship icons, you're probably like, don't like my video background right now. I like my home to look like a mini church. Imagine how most people have photos of their family members and best friends on the walls of their house. It's the same thing where we think of all the people in the Bible and Christians after the Bible as our Christian family. And so the reason we have statues and icons and stained glass of these people is just to remind us of them, because they're our family. And for me, this was a huge inspiration for me converting, was seeing all of the church art, because it felt like the Bible came alive in a way that I never experienced in my 2 decades in Protestantism. I saw Jesus and the apostles and John the Baptist and Mary and Elizabeth and Joseph. It's like stepping into a movie of the Bible. Everything's there and real and alive, and these people are alive in heaven. So for me, once I got over the stereotype of Catholics worshiping these things, it became my favorite part of going to Mass. As a Protestant attending Catholic Mass, I came in and was like, where are the Bibles? There's no Bibles on the pews. But then I opened what I thought was the songbook. What I thought was just a songbook, half of it was hymns, and the other half was Bible verses. So we have something called the lectionary. So we have 3 sets of Bible verses for the entire year, and so a lot of Catholic churches, the book on the pew actually has all the Bible verses, and so you go to the date. Let's say it is January 15th, so you go to January 15th and it has the Bible verses that you're reading at Mass in that first part of Mass, the Liturgy of the Word. So a lot of times that is physically there, or there'll be a bulletin that has the Bible verses on it. So I promise the Bible is at Mass. So many of the prayers and what the priest is saying are verbatim Bible verses as well. And you can think of the icons and statues and stained glass also as another manifestation of the Bible at Mass, because it's illustrating the Bible and making it come alive for everyone. Okay, so the last part is the Liturgy of the Eucharist. So at the end of Mass, people will line up, walk down the aisle, and then receive the Eucharist. I remember getting really offended when I heard that Protestants cannot receive Catholic communion, and I have a lot of other people in my life who also feel really hurt and offended by that. So like I said earlier in the video, we believe that what appears as bread and wine is physically God. That's why we're receiving the Eucharist, because it's physically God. We're becoming physically united with Jesus. And so if you don't believe that, you shouldn't receive the Eucharist. And the thing is, everyone is invited to receive the Eucharist, but you have to go through the year-long RCIA, OCIA class. It recently got changed to OCIA. It's gonna be hard to break the habit and start saying OCIA. But anyways, you have to take about a year-long class to fully convert and receive the Eucharist. That's how it is. That's how it's always been in church history, where converts cannot receive the Eucharist right away, even if they believe that the Eucharist is physically Jesus. They have to go through the classes. Everyone is invited to join OCIA classes, so you can start joining right now if you're interested. So you have 2 options as a non-Catholic at Mass. So some people just stay in the pew the whole time, which is what I did before I became fully Catholic and was confirmed. I prefer to just kneel at my pew and pray and reflect on the homily and what's going on at Mass, pray about my life, pray for people in my life. So I just prefer to stay in the pew, but other people who are not receiving the Eucharist can walk up with everyone else, and you put your arms like this, and then the priest will give you a blessing. So this means that you don't want to receive the Eucharist. So you have those 2 options. Most of my friends don't opt to walk up to receive the blessing, because they're like, what does it mean to get a blessing? This is sketchy. I was the same way. I never wanted to get the blessing. Maybe one time I got a blessing. But let's say like you're in the middle and then there's people on this side and this is the aisle. So stand up with everyone else and then just step behind and let people go ahead of you. And people will not judge you for this or think it's weird, because actually a lot of Catholics, if they committed what may have been a mortal sin and haven't gone to confession yet, they won't receive the Eucharist, or we have to do an hour fast from food before receiving the Eucharist. So if someone ate too soon before Mass, they won't receive the Eucharist. And then there's all the people who are in the process of converting or thinking of being Catholics or just attending Mass. So basically, people will not judge you for not going up. They'll think, oh wow, this is such a holy person that they're waiting until they can go to confession. That's so inspiring. Or they'll think, wow, this person is respecting Jesus in the Eucharist so much by not going up since they didn't do the hour fast. Or they'll think, yay, this person is currently converting to Catholicism or thinking of being Catholic. So no one is judging you. Don't worry about people judging you. That is all for this video. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!